Hi, I'm Jefferson Smith, fantasy author and host of the ImmerseOrDie Report, bringing you another installment of the 5-Minute Immersion Lab. Today, we'll be talking about an awesome, easy way to beef up your plotting skills. One thing that makes a book engaging is having a great plot. The best plots are the ones that keep the reader guessing, that take unexpected, fascinating turns, but do so in a way that stays consistent with whatever came before. I believe humans are genetically encoded to love stories because they serve an important evolutionary function. Stories are the means by which our expensive brains get to practice handling emergencies. If you encounter a tiger springing at you out of a tree, you might freeze. But if you've heard or read a dozen different stories about tree tigers, you're more likely to know that dropping and rolling forward is the most survival-friendly response. So, in evolutionary terms, the most valuable stories would be the ones where the stakes were high and the choices made by the protagonist unexpected, where he behaves in ways that are new and unfamiliar to us, exploring solutions to his problem that we didn't anticipate. And that sounds a lot like the kinds of plots that rivet readers, doesn't it? I wonder if there's a connection. It's like our brain sees one of these stories and says, "Hey, wake up! We completely did not see that twist coming. Our emergency prediction system has failed, so take notes, Junior. This might be handy in some future crisis." But coming up with innovative plot deviations is easier said than done. How do you actually practice writing better plots? Conventional wisdom tells us that you practice things by doing them. So write more stories, write more novels, write more screenplays. That will certainly work, but it's not a very efficient use of time. Most authors I know want to get better at plotting before they write their next story, not after writing a dozen. So can we do better? Yes. It turns out there's an easy trick that is 100% guaranteed to make you better at plotting. In fact, it's so easy to do that when I tell you about it, you're going to write it off as stupid. Cute, you'll tell yourself. But if it was that easy, people would have been doing it for years. Well, I've been doing this for over a decade now, and one thing I hear consistently in reviews of my books is that my plots are full of surprises, taking unexpected turns that nobody was expecting. So how do I do it? Remember how easy I said this was going to be? Well, it's so easy that, in fact, you're doing 90% of it already. All you need to do is make a slight adjustment to the way you do something you already love and do every day. Reading books. You can start right now, today, with whatever book you're currently reading. All that matters is that it be a book you haven't read before and for which you do not already know the story. Whenever the hero reaches a crisis, is presented with a new hurdle to leap over or a new problem to solve, take a 30-second break and ask yourself a single question. If this was your novel, and you had just reached this point in the story, where would you take it from here? What would you have happen next, and what would your big finish be? That's it. As you progress through the book, keep track of the predictions you made earlier and compare them to the choices the author makes. Which arc is better, and why? The more you do this, the more you'll begin to see the building blocks of the plots you're reading, and the more you'll learn about your own instincts, preferences, and aptitudes. You'll start to see the lazy, easy solutions you and other writers tend to come up with, and you'll get better at looking beyond those to find the newer, fresher, less predictable, and more satisfying solutions. Plus, from time to time, you'll come up with something awesome that the author you're reading totally missed. And when that happens, you'll have the bones of a new story that you could tackle yourself. You know, if you're interested in writing awesome stories. Cognition theorists call this deliberate practice, and it's the key to becoming better at any skill. Not rote repetition, but deliberate, focused repetition of a single behavior with specific intent and some way to judge the quality of performance by comparison to a standard or ideal. So it's important to note that I'm not talking about reading a book and wondering what will happen next. It's about taking the time to deliberately plan out what should happen next, what you would do with the characters in this situation, and why. Do that, and you'll be blasting your plotting muscles half a dozen times with every book you read, and picking up half a dozen pieces of objective feedback as you compare your choices to the ones made by the author. That's a lot faster than writing half a dozen books and then waiting for reader reviews, isn't it? Like I said, this is embarrassingly easy to do, but it is not a habit most of us were taught when we were learning to read, so we don't typically do it. But if you make this one small change to the way you read books, I guarantee you'll start writing better plots. And better plots is one of the things that bring readers swarming to your door, which is kind of the point. Anyway, that's it for today's dose of immersion therapy. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe, and maybe I'll see you back here next time. But until then, remember, immersion happens naturally. All you have to do is get out of the way.